Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Melanie White, Mayor of Friendship Heights, and I would like to welcome you to this celebration of the life of Barbara Turlington. I and Barbara's family thank you for joining us today as we honor and pay tribute to Barbara and share our love and admiration for her. We are also honored to be joined through the magic of an iPad with Barbara's sister, Sylvia Turlington O'Neill. We come together as family, friends, neighbors, and colleagues, all a part of Barbara's life that includes those present and family and friends who could not be with us this afternoon.
Hello everybody, it's so good to see you all. My name is Jan O'Neill and I'm one of Barbara's nieces, and I'm here with all my family here. I hope that you'll introduce yourselves, you'll get up and speak, but maybe if you could just, right now, just say who you are. Yeah. Just introduce.
I'm Pat.
Cousin Pat.
I'm Judy.
And Judy.
I'm Reed, Barbara's nephew. I'm Peter.
And Peter. And Michael, their friend.
Michael, yeah, friend of theirs, friend of the family. Hank Keeling, nephew-in-law.
My husband, Hank.
Barbara Johnston, niece.
Barbara's the niece.
Katie Johnston Davis, grandniece, great niece.
And some of you may have met Katie in the dining room when she comes to visit Barbara.
Dan Rebner and Katie's boyfriend.
And Dan.
Eleanor O'Neill, Jan's sister.
Eleanor, my sister.
My husband, Dean.
And Dean. And yes, my mother, through the miracle of technology and thanks to the awesome Eleanor O'Neill and Hector and Barbara and Katie and everybody that helped. I don't even know, there was a whole slew of you over there. My mom is here on the iPad over here, and we are going to change the program up a little bit so that we don't lose the Wi-Fi, so that she can read the poem that she wrote. Hi.
Do you want me to go?
Yes,
that's
hi.
right. Yeah.
And what we're going to do, we'll go through the program, and then there will be time for an open mic when I hope you all, anybody is welcome to speak, but I wanted to introduce you all to the family. I'm just facilitating this here, this program. If you have a program that looks like this, what we're going to do is my mother, Sylvia, is going to read her poem, Memorial, which she wrote, and then hopefully she can stay with us throughout the rest of the program, but we just don't want to lose the Wi-Fi. Then we'll have some speakers, Bill Jones, Terry Adams, Mary White again. Thanks to Robert from Brighton Gardens, we have beautiful music interspersed between, so you can see that in the program. And then there is going to be a letter read from River Road Unitarian Universalist by my cousin Reed. You're reading that? That's right. And then we'll have open mic time, and really we encourage you all to speak if you'd like to. We have a traveling mic here. And then we'll have a song that we'll all sing together that was special to me and to my aunt, to all of us who love the folk songs. And then we'll end with a postlude. And we do want to invite you to stay for coffee, tea, wine, water, and cake. We have lots of cake. So we'd love for you to stay and visit and chat. And Aunt Bee would just, I feel like she's here with us today. And she would just so love seeing all of you sitting here, and how much you all loved her and how much she loved all of you. We are going to go over after the cake and coffee and commemorate the beautiful weeping cherry that was planted in her honor over at Brighton Gardens, and we have a poem to read over there. So if you'd like to join us for that, we'll be doing that afterwards. All right, so are we okay with Mom still on Wi-Fi? And the poem my mother will be reading is actually in your program, and it's called Memorial.
Yes.
Hector, do you want the?
Yes, I can hear you, but the room cannot hear you yet. Okay, you want to try saying something?
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No? No?
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. I originally wrote this poem when my son died.
Yeah.
I read it at our memorial services here at Capitol Lakes in Madison every 4 months. And I changed the pronouns, and this is for Barbara. She has sailed away from us on that voyage we all will take. She has gone on ahead, and perhaps awaits our coming in our time, in time, sometime, or perhaps not. Perhaps she is still with us, in memory face, in memory voice, in who we've become. Nobody who has been loved will ever stop being. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is partly a new act for me to be able to stand. I'm not sure how long I'll be able to stand here, but as long as I can, I'll be here. I'm really honored to join with you today and celebrate the wonderful life and person of Barbara Turlington and the countless gifts that she gave to everyone. I thank Jan and family for the opportunity to speak with you today. You are handsome and beautiful as Barbara. It's really nice to get to meet you and know you. My thoughts and comments are especially sort of tailored and selected and directed to the family. I'd like to share some history about the 8 years that Barbara shared with us at her home here at Brighton Gardens in Friendship Heights, and to thank you for sharing her, because we were all working together with her friendship. Let me tell you about who I am and how I know Barbara. Over the past decade, the federal, state, and county governments created what is known as the Ombudsman Program. This was necessary because of widespread abuse, neglect, and denial of the fundamental rights of residents who lived in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. As an ombudsman at Brighton Gardens, I am responsible for helping protect residents from abuse and neglect, ensuring their rights and safety, and enhancing the quality of services and life for each resident. It is in this capacity that I came to know and work with Barbara and the residents and the Residents' Council at Brighton Gardens. Barbara served as the president of the council for the past 6 years, and she served with distinction, was tireless in listening, hearing, and advocating for all the residents, and was a powerful and effective voice and leader. Let me talk a little about who she was and what she did. I believe that Barbara lived and was guided by these basic values and principles. Number 1, make a difference. Number 2, never settle for less than the best. Number 3, enjoy and make the world happier. And number 4, expect the best from herself and everyone. Rarely did a resident with concerns escape her eyes. When she saw a resident in distress or pain, she quickly moved to talk, embrace, comfort, and support that resident. She had unique eyes to identify concerns and to protect each resident's rights and their safety and the quality of their lives. She was an activist, and she participated in almost every available activity, especially drama, art, music, and gardening. And I'd be remiss if I didn't know that she treasured Terry Adams and the exceptional as an exceptional and giant staff person she is. She welcomed each new resident and encouraged each to be as active and as full participants in our community. She treasured the special care and extras given by so many managers and care managers and med techs. And especially, she always honored the work of Joyce and of David and Sherry L. and many others. And particularly because of their extra effort and how they contributed to the quality of her and every resident's lives. She deeply valued and enjoyed working with the excellence of her fellow leaders who served as officers and the executive committee members of the Residence Council. She greatly valued the members of the Residence Council and their faithful participation and support. And she loved and protected the wisteria, the gardens, the flowers, the birds. And one thing that she always wanted, but she didn't quite succeed in getting it right in Brighton Gardens, was she wanted a bird feeder in the backyard. I don't know if we still got a chance for that, Daryl. She would still be lobbying, and I'm here to do it for her. All in all, she was a great friend and a tenacious, successful, and effective leader, and a humble, gentle, warm, and loving person. We've lost a legacy, but her legacy continues. And she taught us that listening is an act and an art of love. Here are some examples of her leadership and gifts. She brought fresh flowers and put them on her dining room neighbors' tables. She brought fresh vegetables at the farmer's market, and particularly large, beautiful tomatoes. And she'd bring them back, slice them up, and share them with her neighbors. Because of her unrelenting advocacy, the Residence Council has prevailed with protecting and maintaining the holiday fund. She worked to help prevent falls and accidents with having Sunrise install and put on new services to prevent in the external walkways, because it had become, the pavement was rugged, as some of you will remember, and people were falling. So she helped get that resurfaced to protect people and their safety. She's unrelenting in educating residents and families about the importance of the individual service plan. I think you all, when you think about her at the Residence Council's meeting, she will always be talking about, do you know your service plan? Have you read it? Because you're paying for it. She lobbied the Sunrise Corporation to replace replace a kind of an archaic old bus that was probably in the garage more than usable. But finally, about 3 years ago, Sunrise purchased a new bus, which everyone enjoys and has been enjoying now for several years. She and Eleanor Newman pursued and helped develop the Brighton Gardens Friendship Heights relationship with the Friendship Heights Village. And we thank you for all the kindness that you're giving to us today to include this as one of our most special places. She was tireless in advocating for the improved training and supervision of the care staff. She strongly advocated for enhanced activities for the residents. And Terry, as said, she treasured you, and she always supported Terry to get more activities, more variety. And she endlessly fought to eliminate the long delays in the staff responses to call buttons. She greatly valued and advocated for the care staff and the med techs. I mean, this was something that she respected that what they did, and she was an advocate for them and anything that would support them and their pleasure working at Brighton Gardens. The list could go on and on, but there was no resident issue or concern that she that she would miss. As most of you know, Barbara's health and strength as it declined, refused to retire or rest. She always said, quotes, "It's so hard to let go when I know how much more there is to do," end quote. Barbara, we know you're listening and that you gave and gave until the very end, and we can never thank you enough. Now, we pray that you rest in peace, knowing that you made a difference.
Hi, I'm Terry Adams. I'm the Activities Director next door at Brighton Gardens. And I just want to say I was a bit nervous when I was told that Barbara had asked me to speak at her memorial, but when Barbara asks me to do something, I do it. I am honored that she asked this of me. Every room I enter at Brighton Gardens is a memory of Barbara. Just the other day, I was going through our movie library in the activity room and came across the movie Whale Rider, a New Zealand-German film that Barbara asked me to get about a year ago, which is a very good movie, by the way. Our library holds dear memories of small groups that I lead. Barbara always attended and encouraged others to attend and engage as well. I especially loved it when she brought me newspaper clippings to share with the group, and I especially appreciated all the times she helped lead a program for me when I was unexpectedly pulled away. Barbara was colorful, loved nature, flowers, butterflies, trees, and animals, but most important, she cared deeply for her family, friends, and her community, and it showed in all that she did. As president of our Residents' Council, she worked tirelessly. Barbara was very committed to this important position, and she made sure that whatever was discussed and shared was followed up upon. She was dedicated, and our team and our residents appreciated that. Her compassion for others. I want to mention something else about Barbara. She appreciated good grammar and spelling. I thought of her last Thursday when I made a big mistake in my activity daily I had done the night before, and clearly I was tired. With the new Ken Burns Vietnam series that just came out, we heard about this particular book about nurses in the Vietnam War, so we bought it for our book club. So my daily said Viet Man instead of Vietnam. Barbara would have pointed that error out immediately. My daily stayed like that all day. It was not until 4 p.m. someone finally noticed and told me. I was mortified, and I actually looked up and I said, "Sorry, Barbara." I will miss you, Barbara. your big, beautiful smile and your sparkling blue eyes that danced when you laughed. I hope wherever you are soaring with the butterflies.
I met Barbara for the first time in May of 2015. I was participating in a candidates forum prior to that year's council election. Barbara came up, looked at me with her vibrant blue eyes, and asked, "Why should I vote for you?" And with that question began a warm friendship filled with many heartfelt exchanges. For those of you who are visiting Friendship Heights today or are new residents, you may not be aware of what the village was like before Brighton Gardens was built. Where you are sitting now was a children's playground until 1985, and the land where Brighton Gardens stands was a group of community gardening plots. Over the years, we've had some of our neighbors from Brighton Gardens participate in events here, and we are always happy to see them engaged. When Terry Adams at Brighton Gardens suggested that we add Barbara and our friend Eleanor Neiman to our Community Advisory Committee, the Village Council was delighted to do so. Friendship Heights relies heavily on its loyal core of volunteers. So when Barbara and Eleanor joined our team in February 2016, it helped us strengthen our connections with Brighton Gardens. It also meant that the residents of Brighton Gardens could have a formal, long-term representation at the Village Center. Earlier this year, at a monthly council meeting, one blustery and raw night, Barbara walked over to participate. After the meeting ended, I walked her back to Brighton Gardens and then headed home myself. That night's agenda was routine, nothing too exciting. And yet the memory of that night stays with me. Barbara made the effort to leave her apartment, to show up, and take part in her local government, and those efforts did not go unnoticed. Barbara's dedication and commitment to her village is one of the reasons why the Village Council chose to honor her with a Community Service Award on July 4th, 2017. This award is presented to just 2 or 3 residents each year. Maryland State Senator Susan Lee and state delegates Bill Frick and Mark Corman also recognize Barbara's service. The Village Council, along with many county politicians, shared a lot of joy and were so proud of Barbara as she received this much-deserved recognition. Her last Community Advisory Committee meeting was on July 5th. At that meeting, committee members discussed whether the village should send out a survey to residents with questions about their quality of life. Barbara spoke up and said that she thought that the survey response rate will be higher if residents feel that their input will have a positive effect. At the same meeting, Barbara also suggested that the village staff print up small handouts with a map of our streets and landmarks so that it was easier to participate in discussions about zoning and land use. Barbara's care and concern for her fellow residents is one of the many wonderful traits I'll remember about her. Barbara was dedicated to making her community a better place. She took an interest in our activities, programs, and politics. She expressed her opinions easily and frequently. And she encouraged her friends in Brighton Gardens to be as active as possible and to enjoy what is offered here at the center. My one regret is that I didn't have a chance to meet Barbara earlier and that our friendship wasn't longer. I hope that Barbara's legacy here in the village will be that the residents of Brighton Gardens will continue to be engaged participants in our community, and that we will keep Barbara's love for her village alive. Thank you.
So before I speak and I put some words together for my aunt, I just wanted to mention the flowers that are here are to go back to Brighton Gardens, and we got enough violets for every table at Brighton Gardens to have violets. And we got living flowers because we wanted Barbara to go on being there with us for as long as possible, and she loved flowers so much, so all these flowers will go back to Brighton Gardens. The music is music that it was Rosemary and Richard picked out for her to honor her the week that she was dying, and so we put that into the program as well. So thank you for preparing that, and also the other pieces, Robert Glenn. So thank you. I'll go ahead and also, hopefully the rest of the family, whoever is comfortable, can come up after me, and then we'll have sometimes we'll have some more music after that. Aunt Barbara, I called her Aunt B, requested two things at her service, and it probably won't surprise you that she did think about this day in advance. She said two things. Please, number one, don't just say I was nice, everybody. What did I do to specifically help you? And two, don't say I passed away. Say she died. This was my Aunt B in a nutshell. Practical advice and feedback, even in advance of her own death. So I'll do my best to accommodate her last requests. Aunt B was one of those people you count yourself really lucky to have had in your life. And I miss her every day. We used to talk at least once a week, sometimes more, just to catch up on our latest news. And she would tell me about the plays her drama club was performing, a movie they had shown at Brighton. Have you seen it? She'd ask enthusiastically. Oh, you really should. It's really quite good. I think the latest one was The Whale. Or the latest antics of Bullwinkle, the resident cat, or Toka, Terry's dog, both for whom she kept her pockets full of treats. Or the latest improvement she was working on, like guest sign-ins and lanyards, and properly trimming the wisteria. Or the biggest, keeping the Residence Council Holiday Fund open and keeping that strong for the staff. That was really important to her. So one tribute to her today is that we do still have the Holiday Fund, and actually there's a basket over here if you'd like to contribute to the Holiday Fund. And she would text me photos of the cherry blossoms in Kenwood, and this was one of her favorite trips in the spring, or of the raised beds in the gardens at Brighton, and she'd mourn the gorgeous wild gardens she had loved to cultivate at her home in Wesley Heights. We have some pictures of that over here on this counter. And she would ask about my mom, Sylvia, her sister, our son, Luke, and my husband, Hank, my work and my latest projects. And remembering that I was writing a report for my program before retiring, just 2 weeks before she died, she reminded me, be sure to send me that report you did. I really want to know more about what you do. And she meant it. Aunt B was a deeply feeling woman, warm and loving. And when she greeted you with those sparkly blue eyes and that lovely smile, and extended her arms for a big hug, her "hello, darling" enveloped you, and you felt safe and secure and deeply loved. And she extended that love to everyone, not just to family. All you had to do was watch her enter the dining room at Brighton, and she would slowly make her way into the room, late, always late. Sorry, staff. Oh my gosh, you never did get through. And she would smile at each person, staff and residents, calling them by name and connecting and sending her immense love and her kindness throughout the room. And all around the room, staff and residents would meet her eyes and her smile, and they too would light up. And the room would glow brighter. Aunt Bee's brilliant mind, coupled with her big heart, meant that she was an exquisite questioner of the status quo and a constant defender of those without power. Why must it be that way? Who says so? What can we do to change that? And she enlisted each of us in her causes, and we gladly joined, knowing we were standing with her on the right side of love and justice. Best of all, as her niece, and one who got to spend a lot of time with her over the past 9 years, I got to know her as a friend. She was someone I could always count on to listen, to encourage, and support, to ask great questions, and to share her concerns and hopes, feelings, and insights. It was a two-way street, a mutual friendship, and we could tell each other anything and everything, and we did. My admiration and love for her grew even deeper when I had the opportunity to spend Bee's last weeks with her at Brighton. I watched as her friends came to visit each day, often stopping in 2 to 3 times a day. Some came to read poetry and hold her hand, and some came first thing in the morning to sit quietly with her, letting her know in sweet, low tones how much they loved her. Some came several times a day to chat about what was happening downstairs and to tell her how much she was missed. And one night, instead of reading their play, the drama club elected to read the book The Fall of Freddie the Leaf and listen to Beethoven and Gershwin in honor of Aunt Bee. And another night, the staff put on their annual fashion dance show in their beautiful costumes from their home countries, and Madeline, who had cared for her for many, many years, came up to her room to show her and give her hugs and kisses. Bill Jones came often to visit, and once she called for him especially, so he came down immediately from Silver Springs. She wanted assurances that the good work of the Residents' Council would continue because she still had work to do. And staff would visit again and again, each one saying how much she meant to them. One housekeeper said, "She is my best friend." And a care manager said, "Miss Barbara would tell us so kindly what we could do to make life better for the residents. She helped us be better at what we do." And another said, "She would correct my English, my grammar. And I always appreciated it because she would do it so kindly, and I knew she cared." And I heard over and over again how kind she was, how much she helped people. Aunt Bee was a helper, an educator until the very end. And I learned during my 2 weeks at Brighton that not only was Aunt Bee appreciated for her service, she was loved and revered. In her last months, she told me she felt she had done her best work there, that it was better than what she had done to found Hampshire College, better even than her many years of international, better than teaching at Holyoke College, better than her many years of international curriculum work at the American Council on Education in DC. And having witnessed the outpouring of love and respect from her friends and staff and from the people who knew and worked with her in the village of Friendship Heights, I had to agree. Truly, she was the unelected mayor of Brighton Gardens. But to me, she was Aunt Bee, my supporter, my inspiration, my friend. If the measure of someone is not just the number of people they love, but the number who love them, then Aunt B was beyond measure. May I always be inspired to be kinder, to love more, to stay forever engaged in the world, to make it a better place. And thank you for all you were and continue to be, Aunt B. I love you, I miss you, and I'm so lucky to have known you. You will always be with me. Thank you.
My name is Reed Johnston. I'm Barbara's nephew, and I learned something new about Aunt Barbara today that I didn't know before. And would you talk about the grammar? Grammar, the spelling. I didn't realize she was such a stickler, because that's where I got I'm a little OCD about that. Obsessive compulsive. I can be reading something and I may not get anything of the content, but I'll find that misspelled word. I'll find out where you should have used a comma or not. So I guess that was part of what she gave to me. Just a couple of quick memories about her. I can remember being a little kid, and Barbara, my sister, and Pat, my sister, we went to pick her up at the airport. She was coming to visit us in, where were we? Chapel Hill, Mooresville? I can't even remember now. Mooresville, I guess. I don't know if you've heard of Mooresville, North Carolina. Excuse my southern accent if you can't understand what I'm saying. I've heard myself on tape and I don't like it. So. Anyway, but I remember picking her up at the airport, and it seemed like I remember us all sitting in the back seat, and she started singing this song. I don't know if you've ever heard it before. And I can't remember the exact words, and I'm certainly not going to sing it because I don't have the voice for it. But it had to do with a bunch of barnyard animals and the sounds that they made. You don't remember that song? Something about chickens and cows and whatever else. But it's funny how that just, every time I would talk with her, I'd say, "You remember that song you used to sing?" And she said, "Yeah," she'd start singing it. So every time we talked on the phone, she would start singing that song. So that stands out strongly in my memory of her. Also, what was the last one? Isn't it just shame when your memory just vanishes? The last one, when we went to visit her, I can't remember if Pat and Barbara were with me, when we went to Massachusetts to visit her. You don't remember. It's very sad. Anyway, we went to visit her in Massachusetts, and she lived in this house. It seems like it was in the country. I think that's when she was at Hampshire College. And strangest thing, I think we stayed there for several days, and the only thing I could remember about that trip is her talking about the raccoons raiding her trash cans. And I remember standing out there waiting for those raccoons to come and get into the trash. That's the memory I have of her living in Massachusetts. I know she didn't want us to say she was just nice, but as you all know, she was one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. She and I would talk on the phone also about politics. I don't know if she ever did that with y'all, but we could get into quite the conversation about what's going on and what we thought about it, what you could do about it. But that's just how we worked. I'll probably think of other things, but it'll be on the way home to Durham. So thank you for coming today.
You want to go?
I'm Katie Johnston Davis. I'm her grandniece, and I see a lot of familiar faces here because in late 2014 I was lucky enough to move to DC and get to start visiting Aunt Barbara every couple of weeks. And as other people have mentioned, walking into the dining room with her was quite an experience. It was the opportunity to meet and greet all of you, to hear about what was going on with you all, to meet the Brighton Gardens staff, and she would show me pictures of their kids and tell me about their hobbies, tell me about the kids of everyone who was at our table or around the dining room. So just the amount of care and love she had for everyone around her, I know, is something that we all felt, and I certainly did. And not only did I move to DC, but I kind of unknowingly, in many ways, followed in her footsteps in working in international education. So it was wonderful to get to hear from her about her experiences and what it was like for her working in international education, working as a woman in international work when she was at the prime of her career, and then how things had changed. So as many have mentioned and no doubt know, not only was she caring, kind, compassionate, but she was also sharp as a tack and stayed up on the news, stayed up on all kinds of current event stories, and was always an ear for venting, and made me feel like we would figure something out. So even when things were tough, she really had a measured perspective and was able to not only share and vent, but also talk about how things would get better and how we could work and fight to make things better. And I know she did that both in her daily life, all through her career as an educator, and then in her time at Brighton Gardens. And she was just an amazing woman who took such an interest in everyone around her. So whether that was showing me off to all of you guys and talking about my life, or showing you all off to me and other family members, it was wonderful to be around her. And every minute, every moment that you spent with her was a blessing. And I'm so glad that I had that time with her, and I know that other people can relate. So thank you all for being here and sharing this time and remembering her with me and with all of us.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but my brother and others and my daughter inspired me, and thank Jan. Those were just wonderful words. But just a couple of things. What really struck home is the talk about making a difference, and that's the thing. The theme that's kind of spoken to me. That even from early on, we grew up in the South, small town, and Barbara and Rilla would come from Massachusetts, and they would hear some of the attitudes that were being talked about in our house, politically and otherwise, and they would just, Rilla, most people don't know her, but she would tell you out loud really fast. But Barbara had a more quiet ways, but it was incredibly influential in just letting you know that you were on the wrong track, and you got to get back on track. So I think that there was something that made an incredible difference in my life. I'm now a physician, working at a community health center, have treated patients with AIDS for my career. So making a difference at every level with it. And not just on the grand scale of international education, but walking into Brighton Gardens and seeing anyone who's troubled and trying to make a difference in that person's life. The other thing is that, Barbara, and people have mentioned this, but Aunt Barbara was a really beautiful person. And of course, what we like to think of is on the inside, and of course that's very important, but Aunt Barbara was a very beautiful person. Physically, she was a very beautiful woman, and her eyes and her, if it wasn't that she wasn't, she would have made it such because of her smile and the way she would greet you, and you would feel like you were the most important person in the world for that moment. I was with my aunt in those last couple of weeks, the kind of, phase when she was a little bit in and out, but she would greet people, and it was so wonderful to have people coming around. But I wasn't sure, sometimes I would be with her and she wasn't really attentive to things, and I would say, and I said, I really love your white hair, the way that's coming out. And she woke up and said, don't you just love it? I really love it too. So she really had an appreciation for beauty as well. And another thing that she just struck a chord was that she wanted to be relevant up to the very end, because I had gone out and I actually had to buy a little computer because mine died, and I had wanted to put on some music for her, and so I put on, you know, Bach, and it was a little bit dirgy. I think I was a little bit, you know, and you know, but it was that weekend when the terrible hurricane was coming into Texas. Now it just seems like one of many, but at the time it was 24/7 news, and I thought, oh, let's get rid of this news for a while, put on the music, and I just asked her, you know, in a little bit, you know, she could be opinionated. She said, and I said, do you like the music? And she said, not particularly. So, would you rather put back on the news? Yes. So anyway, a few memories, and thank you all for being here. It's lovely to share some of this time with you, with the people that were the most important in her life. So thank you very much.
I hope she'll forgive me. I don't have any specifics. Do you think she'll forgive me?
Correcting your grammar.
She'll be correcting.
I'm
going to enunciate clearly and concisely. Unfortunately, I didn't spend a lot of time with her. My loss. I don't have really specific things, but what kind of got me when I think of her as a lamb with her beautiful hair, soft. I thought I was talking about her. Excuse me. So soft, and I just had this essence of a lamb, so sweet. And it's more not a specific thing, but like I said, the essence, the warmth, the caring, and as other people have mentioned, you just get in her presence and you feel better. You just smile, inside, outside, and that was what I wanted to express. And it's not specific, but it is something that I think was very important to me that I would like to share, that she's still awesome. She's still a wonderful person, and I love you very much, and she is around.
My name is Peter Zarconi, and I've been a part of the family basically for the last 36 years, so I've been around a while. And I remember the very first time I ever met Aunt Barbara, and I never knew a more open, immediately from the very first moment that I met her, just her love that I could feel. And I have to say that in terms of the quality of people, the world needs a lot more of that. And I don't remember ever meeting a kinder, more full of love person ever in my life. And I'm not just saying that to be nice. It is absolutely the fact. We've had the joy and pleasure of her staying at our house on numbers of occasions. And I don't know anyone that had a more warm, beautiful smile. I think every one of us, we've heard that over and over again, every one of us that ever seen her face saw that smile. And I can see it right now on her face as I'm talking about her. I'm a minister, and the Bible says that God is love, and everyone that loves is born of God. And I know she's with him. Amen.
I am Eleanor, the youngest niece, O'Neill. And I put some words together this morning because I'm not very good at, I will ramble terribly if you let me. So I said this: I'm not very good at putting a story together, but I appreciate a good metaphor. My Aunt Barbara was a well of peace at the outskirts of my fractured childhood.
we'll have open mic time, and maybe she can come back during that time also. Robert, would you play for us a little, and then maybe we can do the letter after that. Yeah. Okay. My sisters asked for me to read this for her. She's so much like my aunt. I think she's channeling her right now, actually. Whew. My Aunt Barbara was a well of peace at the outskirts of my fractured childhood. During tortuously long for a child drives up to her house in Granby, Mass, the first spot of joy was probably just before reaching Barbara's house, when we laughed at the town of Belchertown. Perhaps it was around there that my mother would begin singing old folk songs to us. Perhaps she too started unwinding at that point in anticipation. She taught me to love bird songs as we watched them contend at the many feeders at her forest-surrounded house, to listen and really hear them, as she listened and really heard me, shy child that I was. Her woodland paths were my escape and my joy, When exploring with her, she named the tree species, and I adored her knowledge. I learned from her how to see the small things in nature and value them, not for what they might give me, though the vines and flowers and fungi were a beautiful gift, but for their own sake. Though I have many other memories of time spent with her, when I asked at my last visit what was the favorite part of her life, she instantly said, Granby, just that. The rest of my family have always agreed that she and I were kindred spirits. She gave me comfort and peace with her smile and her gentleness. When she saw me, it was always the happiest moment of her day and mine. I think she gave that gift to everyone she cared for, and she cared for everyone. Thank you, Eleanor. River Road Unitarian was Aunt Barbara's congregation. She was not able to go for the last many years, but they wrote a letter in her honor.
All right, this is a letter from Dr. Alexa Fraser. She was a ministerial intern at River Road Unitarian Church. Barbara joined what is now River Road Unitarian Universalist Congregation in 2004. While here with us, she was always involved and on the go with the community at large, and particularly on social justice causes. She was unfailingly generous of her time and many talents. While with us, she was active in pastoral care, particularly focusing on her volunteering efforts on the Memorial Services Committee. Many have warm memories of the help she provided for their loved ones' celebration of life. Barbara was active in our congregation's largest fundraiser, the annual bazaar. This massive effort draws on congregants' generosity in setup, breakdown, and particularly on the big day. Barbara was reliably involved with this good work. Possibly most important to her was her work on the Children's Rights Task Force. The main focus of the Children's Rights Task Force was on helping migrant children, particularly on Maryland's Eastern Shore. They collected funds and toiletries to make or furnish health kits for the children. Much of their focus was on preventing exposure to pesticides by these vulnerable children. The task force also donated to a food pantry and for a Reading is Fundamentals program. Barbara's tireless efforts and leadership in this important work were always appreciated. Barbara was always a lovely and classy lady. She was kind to all, including children and youth with learning or other differences. She was known as a wonderful example of being inclusive to those with disabilities. We here at River Road love and miss Barbara and mourn with you for her loss. In loving memory, Alexa.
So, would anybody like to say a couple words? You also have a travel mic, or used to.
You want me to walk around?
Yeah, let's do that, but come on in.
Anybody would like to speak first?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I'm Clara Lovey, a village resident. Oh. Okay. I'm Clara Lovey, and I live.
Let's keep it easy. Barbara was a friend and a colleague in higher education. She was one of the first colleagues, who welcomed me to Washington, D.C. when I moved here from New York many, many years ago. I won't repeat what you already heard from family members and friends about the fact that she was a caring, loving, activist, sharp as a tack, classy person. She was all of that. And everyone who has worked in higher ed, as I have over decades, knew what she had done, personally and professionally. We all learned from her. She was one of these people who could be a leader in whatever community she engaged with without promoting herself, without giving the impression she was more important than the rest of us. I had the great good fortune 4 years ago to reconnect with her when we ended up being neighbors in the village. She had been at Brighton Gardens before I became a full-time resident of the village. And it didn't take us long to figure out that this leader, who had made such an impact on many communities over the years, was more than ready to do the same for the village in its governance, in its life. And that is how it was. I think that she contributed her talents to all of us in this community. And I believe that the opportunity to be a leader in a new community was something that kept her alive, smiling, and sharp as a tack to the end of her days. I'm very fortunate to be able to say that she was a cherished friend and one of the most able colleagues I've had for many, many years. Thank you.
You can actually, people can just stay seated and we'll bring the microphone to you.
If this works, it does. Okay. I want to add to what Clara Lovett was saying. My name is Elaine L. Kawas, and I knew Barbara first at the American Council on Education. She had a splendid career there serving international education. What I want to reinforce and expand is the comments the family made about her attention to grammar and spelling. She didn't stop there, in case you didn't notice. For me, we were colleagues, but in different parts of the same organization. We were colleagues and friends. And whenever I would have a report drafted, and I would seek out people to comment for me, 100% of the time, Barbara had the time to read it and the time to offer not just grammatical corrections, but clarity of thinking and giving me her opinion on everything that was there. It was classy and needed, and it made any report I did better. It was terrific, and over again it was. And if you ever were in Barbara's office at ACE, I mean, she had a lot of work. The work was literally stacked up. If I was going to sit down and hear her comments, I had to move various reports from the chairs because all of the tabletops and the desktops were full. But let me turn that I also reconnected with Barbara when I moved into the village and found out that she was here. And it's been lovely. We've been done events together, and the best one, which reminded me of Barbara's many qualities and values, is one day about 2 years ago, we were going to lunch at Clara's, who lives in the Carlton, really close, just a little bit. I met her at Brighton Gardens lobby, and we're just gonna walk over. And actually, we had just enough time to walk over, except Barbara wanted to stop by the florist down the hill. And I said, well, we're late. We're on, Clara's going to be wondering if the food's ready. Let's look, she says. Well, we did let's look. And it was a dialogue with her friend, the florist, because she's there all the time. It wasn't a hasty, I'll take that one. It was she had to create a bouquet. And it was lovely. And we did make it to Clara's. The food might have been cool, but it did to me remind me of her values. She was so centered in what's important. And in the scale of things, what was 10 minutes in relation to the beauty of the bouquet she put together? What a lovely person. You were so lucky.
Anyone else like to speak?
Thank you. I'm Patricia Maloney. I am another colleague of Barbara's from the American Council on Education, and I came to ACE long after all of my friends here at this table. And Barbara, as one of my professors put it, who worked with her for many years, was the vision of pure elegance. She really was. She was elegant in the elegance of the intellect and the ability to speak clearly. We all know about the grammar and the piles of papers in the office, her unique filing system. So Barbara embodied feminism, embodied the best of everything without ever wearing a label, without wearing a sign. She lived her life the way that she wanted to live it and set an example for young women, all kinds of people, both at our organization and elsewhere. And we continued our friendship after I left ACE. We call it the diaspora. Many of us have left and gone on to other things. And we had a warm friendship, didn't see each other often, but we would have dinner together, and she would come to my house and meet my cats, which was a fantastic event. I know that Bullwinkle was one of the best things ever at Brighton. I got to meet Bullwinkle too. And she would say, oh, this is before Brighton. I know, I'm sorry I can't have you over for dinner, but let's meet at such and such. And so we would go to her favorite place in Spring Valley. And the talks were always wonderful. And I came to see her when she moved into Brighton. And, oh, it was the perfect place for her because it was a community full of people like her. All these phenomenal minds and spirits. And Barbara, if she cared about you and she cared about so many, she really cared about you. She was your friend for life. And I know that she loved all of you, her family, so proud of all of you. So we know lots about you, pre-Facebook, and all great stuff. So thank you for sharing her with us.
was one of Barbara's friends in her last years at Brighton Gardens. I have just one or two anecdotes to share with you. One of them was about the cat, Bullwinkle. Barbara and I inherited, we were the two moms for Bullwinkle for a number of years. And we would go down to the activities room and play with him and color. We had gotten hooked on coloring. So we had our liquid gel pens and our designs, and we would color, and Bullwinkle would wander around all over them, and then he'd come back and sit on the ones he approved of. Another story that, to me, shows so much about Barbara's character. I went with her to her, I think, first or second chemo treatment, and she had a conference with the doctor that day, and he told her this is what she wanted to know, and he said this is what's going to happen, because he had just told her your time is short now. He said,